In just 9 minutes, uncover 10 eye-opening takeaways from Mona Charen's explosive talk with economist Noah Smith on the truth about the dying middle class, why tariffs hurt you, and how most jobs weren't lost to China. Takeaway 1. The middle class is not disappearing. Noah Smith argues that the idea of the American middle class being hollowed out is mostly a myth. He points out that from 2001 to 2023, the share of adults in middle-income households fell by only 3%, dropping from 54 to 51%. Of this 3%, 2/3 moved into higher income brackets, while only 1/3 moved down. So, in reality, more people are getting richer than getting poorer. Wages have also been rising again since the 1990s after a long period of stagnation. Mona Charen and Noah both mention that economic data contradicts the popular narrative pushed by figures like Bernie Sanders or J.D. Vance, who claim that the middle class is being crushed. In Noah's words, it's very difficult to find statistics that tell you that the middle class has been hollowed out. For example, the average American household now owns more square footage of living space than ever before, showing how living standards have improved over time. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 2, more people are moving into better jobs. Noah explains that many workers who once held low-wage service jobs have since moved into professional sectors like healthcare, STEM, and business. While there was a time when manufacturing job losses pushed people into fast food or retail work, that shift is no longer happening. Since the recovery from the Great Recession, more Americans are entering higher-paid service jobs. This trend shows that the American labor market has adjusted and even improved in many areas. Mona Charen emphasizes that this major change is not getting enough attention in public discussions. For example, between 2012 and 2022, there has been a steady rise in the number of jobs in tech support, healthcare management, and software services, even in places that were once heavily dependent on factories. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 3, perceptions of economic crisis are exaggerated. Although many Americans feel like the economy is in crisis, Noah Smith shows that we are actually wealthier than most other countries. Americans rank at the top globally in terms of average purchasing power. But because politics and social media exaggerate problems, people often believe things are worse than they are. He shares how economic surveys reveal that when partisanship is removed, most people give accurate answers about the economy. For example, when participants were paid a small reward for correctly answering questions about GDP growth or inflation, the partisan gap in responses nearly vanished. This means people know the truth but are often influenced by political emotions. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 4, we are richer than ever before. According to Noah, Americans have more housing, better cars, better healthcare, and more technology than previous generations. Even when accounting for past wage stagnation, living standards have improved dramatically since the 1970s. While some people hold on to the economic pain of the past, particularly from the 70s and early 90s, the data shows things have been improving since then. He says consumption is really important. Standard of living for normal people is important. For example, a working-class family today can afford smartphones, internet access, modern appliances, and take vacations, things that were once considered luxuries. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 5, trade makes countries stronger, not poorer. Noah Smith firmly rejects the idea that trade, especially with China, has destroyed the U.S. economy. He explains that trade helps countries specialize in what they do best while allowing them to buy what others make better or cheaper. It also allows access to raw materials and essential goods that America cannot produce in sufficient quantities. Mona Charen points out that Trump's idea that buying from other countries is a loss for the U.S. is completely backward. For example, Noah says that without trade, we would have to give up products like coffee, chocolate, or certain industrial metals, which are mostly imported and vital for both daily life and manufacturing. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 6, tariffs hurt more Americans than they help. Trump's tariffs are a central focus in this episode. Noah explains that these taxes on imports may temporarily protect a few factory jobs, but cause widespread harm to the rest of the economy. For example, if you raise tariffs on steel, you help one steel plant, but you hurt 5 other businesses that use steel to make their products. Noah puts it bluntly, you're going to hurt the economy and impoverish millions of Americans in order to preserve the jobs of a few. He believes protectionism creates concentrated benefits for a small group while spreading the costs across millions of consumers and workers in other industries. For example, during the Trump administration's first term, increased steel tariffs led to higher costs for American car manufacturers, forcing some plants to scale back operations and cut jobs. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 7. Most manufacturing jobs were not lost to China. While many blame globalization for the decline of American manufacturing, Noah says the real reasons are different. First, Americans simply started spending more money on services than on stuff. Second, productivity increased, meaning fewer workers could produce more goods. He even points out that U.S. manufacturing productivity stopped improving around 2008 and has not grown much since then. This lack of investment in newer technology has made American factories less competitive. For example, countries like Germany and South Korea have kept their manufacturing strong by investing in advanced equipment, while the U.S. has fallen behind by not upgrading its factories. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 8. Automation is not going far enough. Instead of blaming trade for job losses, Noah argues we should be worried that automation in U.S. manufacturing has slowed down too much. While productivity used to grow rapidly in the sector, that growth has now stalled. If we want competitive factories, we need to invest more in machines and tools that can do repetitive work better than humans. He also notes that failing to automate quickly enough is one reason the U.S. is losing its edge to other countries. For example, in many Chinese factories, robots are already doing tasks that American workers are still doing manually, making Chinese goods cheaper and faster to produce. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 9. We need better support for displaced workers. Noah Smith explains that while economic progress brings change, we still have to deal with the real people who get left behind when industries shift or fade out. When factories close due to automation or changing consumer demand, workers, especially older ones, often feel betrayed. Mona Charen asks what we can do for a 55-year-old factory worker whose job is suddenly taken over by a robot. Noah admits it is tough, but emphasizes that holding back economic progress for the sake of keeping a few old jobs is the wrong solution. Instead, we should look to successful models like Denmark's flexicurity system, where the government actively helps people find new, decent jobs quickly. This system doesn't promise that you can keep doing the same job forever, but it does promise that you won't be left behind. For example, a person who loses a job in a car parts factory might be trained and helped into a supervisory role at a logistics company, even if it's not in manufacturing. This kind of support system helps people adapt while allowing the economy to evolve. Now let's move to the last takeaway. Takeaway 10. America now makes great chocolate and beer. The podcast ends on a lighter note with a playful disagreement between Mona and Noah about American chocolate. Mona insists that countries like Switzerland make better chocolate, while Noah defends the rise of American artisan chocolate makers. He points out that just like craft beer transformed from being terrible to world-class, chocolate has also improved. For example, companies like Dandelion Chocolate in San Francisco now produce small-batch, bean-to-bar chocolate that rivals European brands. Noah jokes, that's like thinking American beer is still Coors Light. This part of the conversation highlights how capitalism and innovation can improve even the simple pleasures in life. Here is a brief introduction about Noah Smith. Noah Smith is an economist, writer, and former Bloomberg opinion columnist known for his data-driven analysis of economic policy, labor markets, and globalization. He publishes widely read essays on his Substack blog, Noahpinion, where he explores current issues in the economics and public discourse. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, hit the thanks button below. It really helps us keep going. If you enjoyed this summary, please leave a like and share it in your WhatsApp groups. To join discussion about this video, drop a comment below. And for more videos like this, hit the subscribe button below.